こんなもの今すぐ焼却炉で燃やしてやる。せよ。ほらって。
You need to read this manga, which was also an anime with one season that unfortunately wasn't commercially successful. I hope if you're watching this you're over 18 though, because this story is tense and at some points too much. So if you're young, I'll need you to leave this video and I'll give you a second to leave. Okay, great. Hana, also known as The Flowers of Evil, is one of the best manga I've ever read. It starts in a small region of Gunma, where we meet our main character Kasuga in middle school. His views of the world are shaped by the book The Flowers of Evil by Charles Baudelaire. We'll speak about that book later though. Kasuga often complains that there's nowhere to go in a small town and that people don't really understand him and the complicated work of The Flowers of Evil, which is a book Kasuga doesn't really understand himself. A classic case of a superiority complex and a misunderstood complex that at that age is unfortunately too common. One day Kasuga forgets the Flowers of Evil book at school, and as he goes back to class to get it, he spots Saiki Nanako's gym bag. Saiki is the popular cute girl at school. Kasuga refers to Saiki as his muse, his femme fatale. He thinks about touching her clothes, but he resists. Then he walks over to smell Saiki's scent. He hears a sound outside the classroom and in a panic hides Saiki's gym clothes under his uniform and takes it home. It's an act not driven by lust but by a twisted desire to possess something pure, something that embodies the perfection he craves. The next day he comes to school and he sees Saiki cry about losing her gym clothes, with the teacher asking the class if anyone knows what happened to Saiki's clothes. Everyone is shocked, and Kasuga feels the weight of the situation but doesn't say anything. And after the school day, Kasuga is seen cycling fast to a bookstore, the only place that gives him peace in this situation, until he's met by Nakamura, the only person that saw Kasuga sniff and take Saiki's gym clothes home. Nakamura sits behind Kasuga in the classroom. She's the complete opposite of Saiki Nanako. She's unpopular, rude, eccentric, and a self-proclaimed pervert. Nakamura makes a contract with Kasuga. She promises not to tell his secret as long as she takes something precious from him. In this time, she puts Kasuga in the most annoying and excruciating positions. In one situation, she gives Kasuga a note to meet her in the library, secretly invites Saiki with what I would presume is a note saying Kasuga wants to speak to Saiki. Then as they speak, pushes Kasuga in the chest of Saiki and tells him to write an essay about how it felt to him. In another situation, she undresses Kasuga and makes him wear Saiki's clothes under his own clothes whilst they're out on a date. It's the weird, sick, perverted stuff that she enjoys putting Kasuga in that is entertaining, yet it's very annoying and pathetic, but also somewhat relatable. They spend every day together, getting to know each other, but not in a loving way. Nakamura wants to break Kasuga down, to peel his skin, to see all of his perversion and to escape the small town they're in to the other side. As the story progresses, the events get darker, more sinister. It transitions from something so pathetic to something truly scary considering they're so young. Multiple times, Nakamura strips Kasuga naked, berates him, belittles him, physically abuses him, and makes him feel like the worm he is, and Kasuga does nothing but accepts it, and eventually uses this pain and torture to feel something that the small town he's in can't give him. There are stories that leave scars on your mind, stories that are unsettling, raw, and painfully human. Hana is one of those stories. It's not just a simple coming-of-age manga, it's an exploration of guilt, desire, and the suffocating grip of shame. It's about how one small reckless act can spiral into something monstrous, something that changes your entire existence. Nakamura is the embodiment of chaos. She sees right through Kasuga's pretentious facade. Nakamura doesn't want anything from Kasuga but the truth. She wants him to admit that he's just as disgusting as everyone else, just as perverted as everyone else. Something I think the manga did so well. A lot of people may judge Kasuga but are just as perverted in their own private lives, behind their screens and in the dark. There's stuff that a lot of us all hide, some dark, deep obsessions, a fetish we would be uncomfortable to talk about, a person people probably wouldn't assume you are. Now, when I first read how this starts, I thought the story and Kasuga is pathetic, but a lot of people at Kasuga's young age can be pathetic and petty, making a big deal out of such a small situation. Kasuga could have simply, what I thought, returned the clothes the next day and apologized for the mix-up, or put the clothes back after everyone left at the end of the school day. Instead, one small thing turned into a mountain of problems. And before it gets deeper and darker, I want to say, I'm going to say spoilers from this point out, so if you want to read it first, stop the video and go. Nakamura spots Kasuga speaking to Saiki, and Kasuga later reveals the date planned with Saiki. Nakamura tells Kasuga to meet her a little earlier than the date planned and to bring Saiki's gym clothes with him. As they walk into the bathroom together before the Saiki date, she forces Kasuga to put on Saiki Nanako's clothes under his own clothes and tells him to kiss her at the end of the date, or she'll spoil the secret. During the date, Kasuga and Saiki have a great time. Kasuga shows and pays for Saiki to read his favorite book, The Flowers of Evil. As the day progresses to an end, Kasuga is scared to kiss Saiki. Nakamura, who had been stalking their every move, pours water on Kasuga to reveal the clothes underneath, and Kasuga runs away. Fortunately for him, Saiki didn't see anything. As their friendship grows, it turns into a relationship. Saiki then asks if Kasuga is hiding something because he always seemed a little off and untruthful. Kasuga lies and says no. Saiki trusts Kasuga and lets it be. Kasuga meets Nakamura and with guilt begs for Nakamura to tell Saiki the truth, to tell Saiki that he's a worthless pervert shitbag. Nakamura laughs and later brings Kasuga to their high school late at night, where she forces him to write that he's a shitbag pervert all over the school, to admit his sins and pay for them, to turn the classroom into a sea of shitbugs. This scene and the music heard in the anime was amazing and cathartic. I remember watching the scene and remembering my years as a teen, where I experienced so much pain and heartache that I needed something wild and crazy to release all the major emotions I'd be feeling at the time, and it resonated so well with me, and it was just a beautiful piece of the anime and manga I can't really forget. The next morning, as the class returns, Saiki confronts Kasuga about stealing her gym clothes, and Kasuga, without giving her time to speak, breaks up with her. Saiki stops Kasuga to tell him that even if he is this big pervert he's claiming to be, she wouldn't break up with him. Some time passes and Kasuga is just thinking about that conversation, thinking about why Saiki doesn't hate him, knowing how weird he is. About a day passes and Saiki goes to Kasuga's house and shouts, "I don't know why you did such a thing, Kasuga. I don't understand you, but I'm happy if you did take my gym clothes. It showed that you cared for me." And when she leaves, Kasuga's parents start to catch on, especially since his mom does the laundry. She finds that Kasuga has dirty clothes with paint all over them. When Kasuga sees this, he runs away from home to his and Nakamura's meeting spot, and they decide to run away from the town to the other side. As Kasuga makes this amazing long journey with Nakamura behind him, they travel for a long time, then it starts to rain heavily. Kasuga's mother runs after him. Saiki finds Kasuga's mother looking for him and decides to find Kasuga herself, pedaling through intense rain until she finds him and Nakamura sheltering from the rain. Saiki really wants to understand Kasuga and why he acts the way he acts or thinks the way he thinks. She tells him that she didn't understand the flowers of evil. She doesn't understand Kasuga, but there's something about him that pulls her to him. Nakamura starts to leave, and Kasuga follows her. And just like Saiki is obsessed with Kasuga, Kasuga is obsessed with Nakamura. Saiki questions and shouts, "Why do you keep chasing after Nakamura? Are you in love with her?" Saiki, being the perfect girl that everyone wants and everyone has to be nice or perfect to, sees Kasuga as something she wants to be like, free. Or at least her warped definition of free. Saiki has always been the model student, the person that does no wrong. Being with Saikuga really opens up who Saiki later becomes, her real self, her perverted version. Saiki is stuck between wanting to break free and desperately clinging to his idealized version of love and normality. And so when Saiki tries to pull him back into the normal world, Kasuga becomes a fractured soul, torn between the brutal honesty of Nakamura and the comforting lie of Saiki's purity. Saiki asks Kasuga, "What do you want? Make a choice." But Kasuga can't. Police arrive to the scene and see the trio to take them home. Kasuga returns home. They're split from each other and try to distance themselves. On their return, Kasuga breaks up with Saiki. Saiki accepts, but Nakamura isn't speaking to Kasuga. Her contract with him is done. She's bored. There's nothing in this town or Kasuga can give her anymore. Kasuga tries desperately to seek her approval, to get back in her good books again, but nothing works. Desperately, he ups the ante. He goes into the girls' changing rooms and steals all their underwear, where he makes a makeshift tent and he decorates the inside with washing lines of all the girls' underwear, and he convinces Nakamura to come and see it. He says, "If I can't take her to the other side, I'll bring the other side here." Nakamura approves, and their contract, his dependence on her, and her dominance over him starts once more. Their tent becomes their sanctuary, a place where they can speak openly about their darkest desires and the hatred they feel towards the suffocating world around them. They plot their next grand act of defiance, something truly vile that will shake the town to its core. Saiki in the background is tracking Kasuga in all his steps, causing her and her friend to find Kasuga's sanctuary. Inside, she finds the stolen panties and disturbing messages scrawled across the walls. This is the moment she realizes Kasuga is no longer the boy she thought he was. Her friend is horrified, contemplating reporting Kasuga to the authorities. But despite the disturbing stuff, Saiki hesitates. Something inside her prevents her from betraying Kasuga entirely. She remains conflicted, repulsed, yet still emotionally bound to him. One day, Saiki rings Kasuga and tells him that his tent is on fire. Kasuga, fearing people would discover exactly what was hidden in there, and of course not wanting it to burn, rushes over to it, only to see Saiki sitting on the chair Nakamura would sit on. Her posture is shy. Her face looks uninterested, and in a moment of desperation, Saiki undresses in front of him, offering herself completely. It's a symbolic moment for me. She's stripping away not just her clothing, but her innocence, her past self, and the illusion that she and Kasuga could have a normal love. The encounter is awkward, intense, and tragic. There's a rawness to it, an attempt at intimacy that feels more like a desperate grasp at control rather than love. It's a mix of confusion, longing, and a desire to understand what Kasuga has become. She undresses Kasuga, controls Kasuga, and they share an intimate moment in which Kasuga is completely against. Kasuga pushes Saiki away and runs out of the tent as fast as possible, and as he covers ground, the tent lights up in flames. Kasuga is shocked since he left Saiki in there, and as he turns he hears Nakamura's voice asking him, "What is this?" trying to figure out why the tent is on fire. Now I'm going to leave this part of the review blank. I figured that a lot of people that haven't read it are probably still here listening in, and I want you to read it first. I'll probably do another video going through all of the manga, but I'm going to fast forward on this video. Kasuga and Nakamura devise a sinister plan for the holidays, something so vile and destructive that it will leave an irreversible mark on their town. They want the world to see them for who they truly are, to broadcast their rebellion for everyone to witness. The details are best left vague here, but what they set out to do on that fateful night is nothing short of catastrophic. Unlike typical stories of teenage rebellion, this isn't about defying parents or skipping school, it's about obliterating everything in their path. And unlike most protagonists and coming of age tales, Kasuga and Nakamura actually follow through. I'll do a breakdown of this show from this point, but in all honesty, I may need different parts to fully complete it. But all I can say is, to me, Hana is a psychological masterpiece. Kasuga and Nakamura are not your typical protagonist. They aren't just misunderstood teens, they're deeply flawed individuals whose actions stem from a mix of existential dread, self-hatred, and a desperate need for meaning. Kasuga believes he's different from everyone else, that he's somehow more intellectual and profound, but in reality he's just as lost as everyone else is. Nakamura, on the other hand, represents pure chaos. She sees through Kasuga's pretentious facade and forces him to confront his true nature, something that both terrifies and exhilarates him. What makes Hana so compelling is its raw, unfiltered depiction of adolescence. There's no romanticized notion of youthful rebellion here, just pain, confusion, and the consequences of impulsive actions. The way relationships unravel, the way emotions spiral out of control, the way people make mistakes they can never take back, it's all disturbingly real. I feel like in my own life I've lived 5 different lives at like 5 different times. Something I would say for Josh, Jody, and even maybe Shad. As a teen, you're trying to find yourself and who you truly are, which makes you act awkwardly. I don't even know if Josh would want me to share this story, and I'll probably delete this part if he doesn't want me to, but as a teen he used to get up to crazy things just like me and Jody, and he had this story in which he once robbed a pizza delivery driver, and for a lot of people would hear that and instantly hate Josh, but the question here would be why. It's easy to see the surface reasons, but behind every decision there's a deeper and much more twisted version people don't see. Growing up, I've done some things I wasn't proud of, from drugs to fights to just random chaos. But the question is, why? A lot of us are simply trying to find ourselves. And when you're left in the wrong hands, you can spiral down a really bad rabbit hole that you won't be able to escape from. Most of the bad things I've done were motivated by the lack of money and the need to belong or mean something to someone, to be respected, loved, and appreciated. And a lot of the times when you're lacking that sort of love and sense of belonging and appreciation from your own household, from your own family, you try to seek it outside. And I think what made going out in the streets for me so appealing was I could find the father figures that I never truly had, that would teach me stuff that I need to know, that would teach me stuff that would be useful. The irony in all of this is the exact people that were my father figures also ran out in the streets when they were younger to find father figures. So it's like a brutal cycle of the same type of story. I remember running around my town and thinking, this can't be it. The town feels so small, which makes me feel even smaller and insignificant. And with no purpose, no inspiration, you either create chaos to balance out the boredom or find a way to escape. I met this girl called Lucia, and here's a song I made about her.
And I'm losing my sanity, I'm battling insanity. Lucia told me, oh she told me, oh she told me, drop Acid, take pills, sniff ketamine, and please just trust me, you'll feel better than you've ever been. Now my brain is fried like eggs in the morning, but I function in your function, but I function in your function, but I function in your function. I'm the main man, but I bring the water every time I rain dance, that I rain dance. You didn't think that this is life, and you're telling me, you're begging me for some truth, no matter how much.
Lucia was a really cute girl that had a lot of darkness to her that I didn't or couldn't see. But see, she introduced me to pills, to love, to hate. She would know how to get inside of my head, to do things that I didn't want to do, and to expose who I am. She would plan for us to shoplift for alcohol and take meds and get in fights and do all random missions that I wouldn't want to do. But she would also teach me more about life and myself. I remember standing on top of North Oak Hills, which was a popular spot in my teens to just do nothing. I was out of my mind, holding her hand and thinking this is the person I would want to be with until the end of the world. But the thing is, Lucia put a massive strain on my life and my future, but I was so dependent on her. She gave me meaning, and I didn't need to pretend to be anyone else or put on a front for her like I do with everyone else. Lucia once asked me, what would it feel like to fly, to escape, even for a little bit? She said this while staring down the hills. I got scared thinking she would jump or something, and I held her hand tight and she laughed at me and said, I'm not gonna jump. I walked her home and told her I'll see you tomorrow. The next day she died. Lucia was my Nakamura. A lot of the time you don't realize just how toxic the life you're living is until you're detached. Don't get me wrong, she was a great person, but she was cursed with a bad life which ultimately ended up infecting me. But she will be missed, always. This darkness, pervertedness, filth, evil is behind everyone in very different ways, no matter how much they hide it. Lucia just opened me to it, but a lot of people are fortunately not open to their darkness. And if you're not exposed to it directly by people like Lucia and Nakamura, you may be indirectly. And that for Kasuga was the Flowers of Evil book. For a lot of young men, it could be watching a Red Pill podcast and going down a rabbit hole of misogyny. For women, it could be just watching their social feeds and getting inspired by online prostitutes that are raking in a lot of money, exposing themselves and losing their soul and dignity. For a lot of youth, it could be the music they listen to and what they see on the internet. The book, The Flowers of Evil, touched on many disturbing topics from perversion to death and everything in between. One of the most infamous poems is Un Charoño, where he describes the decaying body of a dead woman in disturbing detail, turning rot into poetry. He wrote, "The flies buzzed and hummed over that stinking belly, from which came forth black battalions of maggots that oozed like a heavy liquid along the living rags of the corpse." Basically meaning flies were buzzing around a smelly dead body. Out of the belly came swarms of black maggots, oozing like thick liquid, crawling over the leftover bits of skin and flesh. This wasn't just about shock value. Baudelaire was showing how beauty and death are intertwined, how even rot has poetic form. Still, it was way too intense for censors. And there's many other things I can't put in this review, but as the manga ends, you'll see the beauty and destruction in living the same life and removing yourself from it. Hana is more than just a story about twisted love and corrupted innocence. It's a brutal look at the human condition. It challenges you to confront your own fears and desires, to question whether your ideals are genuine or just illusions. It's uncomfortable, haunting, and painfully real, capturing the feeling of being trapped in your own skin, unable to escape the monster within. The story's genius lies in how it forces you to sympathize with deeply flawed, broken characters. It doesn't glorify their darkness, but it doesn't shy away from it either. It's a raw and unflinching portrayal of adolescence and the chaos of self-discovery. If you're ready to watch and read something twisted, annoying, but also therapeutic, read Hana. If you enjoyed this review, like and subscribe. It helps me make more videos like this, and it helps me to understand what you guys really want. If you enjoyed this video, check out the other videos that we have on screen, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you on the next few reviews. Thank you.